One of the most endearing parts of Team Fortress 2 and its influence is its in-depth lore and comics, and this iceberg chart created by a user named Wanj on Reddit documents it all. Quickly, for those unaware, the entries near the top of the chart are things that most TF2 players know about, while the entries near the bottom consist of things that are morbid, obscure, or just generally not well known within the wider community. All that said, now to the iceberg. Pyroland is the imaginary world that Pyro sees the world as. The bright and cheerful environment of Pyroland is in stark contrast to everything relating to TF2, making it quite the gag for a character as mysterious as Pyro. There even exist items in the game that let players replicate this client side, if they ever wanted to for some reason. The Meet the Team series are a collection of 10 short promotional videos made to give a brief overview of each of the 9 classes and the sandwich for some reason. The videos are beloved by both people in and outside of the TF2 community, with many citing the videos as the reason they started playing TF2. In the Meet the Spy video, we learn that Spy had intercourse with Scout's mother at one point. However, for a while there was no concrete proof that Spy was his father. It wasn't until Kamek 6 released in 2017 that it was 100% confirmed that Spy is indeed Scout's father. The sandwich is a consumable item that pretty much has become synonymous with the Heavy and Team Fortress 2 as a whole. To this day, it is the only weapon to ever get a promotional video of its own, likely making it the most iconic item in all of TF2. The Administrator is a mysterious and depraved woman that presides over all matches and happenings in the TF2 universe. Most of the later storylines in the TF2 comics primarily revolved around her and what she wanted. In the final comic, it was revealed that her ultimate plan was simply to keep the in-game wars going on as long as possible, which explains why she seemingly works for both teams. Miss Pauling is the administrator's assistant and likely the leader of the Team Fortress Mercs. She does everything from background checks to finishing the Mercs job for them when they mess up, and in-game, she is the one that doles out contracts for players to complete. For as long as TF2 has existed, the gender of the Pyro has been unknown, and it seems like Valve are intent on keeping it a secret in order to extend the debate on for as long as possible. Over the years, many have put forward their theories trying to solve the mystery of Pyro's gender, with MatPat's video on it being the most popular of them all, and FemPyro mods too. Girardi is an equipable item for Sniper, with it being pretty well known that it's a mason jar filled with piss, and there is a lore reason for its existence, being that Sniper took pills that tripled the size of his kidneys, therefore he is able to produce these piss jars at an ungodly rate. Redmond and Blutark are the owners of the Red and Blue team respectively. Both are fighting for control of the worthless plots of land left to them by their father Zephaniah Mann. They each hired teams of mercenaries, but due to their teams being evenly matched, a stalemate ensued. This led to Blutark commissioning a life-extending machine to be built for himself. In the background, the administrator secretly had one commissioned for Redmond too. This led to both of the men becoming extremely old, neither closer to winning the war against each other due to the administrator's manipulation. Australium is a shiny, powerful substance in the TF2 universe that is highly desired due to its many properties. It can extend life and prolong youthfulness. The vast majority of it is found in Australia, hence why the Australian populace are all depicted as being extremely fit and muscular, even into old age. However, most of the world's supply has been used up by the time the TF2 comics take place. Marasmus is the wizard most well known for being the main face of the TF2 Halloween events. He is well known for his in-game boss fight as well as the beings he summons like Monoculus. The soldier is not an actual soldier, however much the soldier deludes himself into believing he is one. In the 2010 War comic, the full extent of this is seen when the administrator tells Soldier that the Devilman called him a civilian, which in Soldier's mind is the greatest insult one could levy against him. Greyman is the long-lost third sibling of Redman and Blutark. Rather than be affiliated with a team, he instead constructed his own army of robots in order to take over Manco. He also killed Redman and Blutark in order to absorb their companies, but more on that later. For most of the story, Saxon Hill is the CEO of Manco and the leader of the TF2 Mercs. He is a quintessential macho man, always up for a fight. In light of Greyman's proposed takeover of Manco, he set out along with Miss Pauling in order to get the Mercs back together to find the last stores of Australium. It is well known that the sniper lives in a camper van. He is seen driving it around in the Meet the Sniper video. This is also confirmed by one of Spy's voice lines. When dominating an enemy sniper as a spy, he will mockingly say,
"You live in a van!"
The reason Devilman sports an eye patch is because when he was young, he worked for Erasmus. While given a job to clean his castle, Devilman got curious and opened up a book he wasn't supposed to. The book was the Cursed Bombonomicon book, which ended up haunting his eye socket, forcing Erasmus to remove his eye. And now every year on Halloween, Devilman's haunted eye comes back to destroy the mercs in the form of Monoculus. The aforementioned MatPat video made on the Pyro pushed the idea that Pyro might be a man who just adopts stereotypical gay mannerisms that make him seem like a woman, such as the way he performs the director's vision taunt. In the Cold Day in Hell comic, the mercs come across a plane wreck in the Siberian wilderness. Inside the wreckage is the body of Amelia Earhart and a hot dog costume she wore before her death. In the comics, it is revealed that Sniper was actually born in New Zealand and not Australia, which explains why he never adopted the muscularity of the regular Australian people. Tom Jones makes many appearances in the comics. He was Erasmus's roommate at one point, until the soldier killed him and framed Erasmus for the murder. Scout was also portrayed as a huge Tom Jones fanboy, even deluding himself into thinking that Tom Jones is his father. In the second comic, it is confirmed that Soldier is a lawyer. When Scout and Spy are being tried for their crimes, Soldier bursts into the room claiming to be Scout's lawyer. When asked for proof, he shows a law degree that Erasmus magically summoned in for him. In the sixth comic, Medic confirms that he surgically implanted baboon uteri inside the Team Fortress Classic mercs, later being shown holding a baby baboon after defeating the Team Fortress Classic Heavy. Many know about how Heavy named his prized minigun Sasha, but what is lesser known is that he has a separate name for all of his miniguns, the Brass Beast being Oksana, the Tomislav being Svetlana, and the Huelong Heater being named Sheila. And there is even a bonus name for the Iron Curtain, which is subscribe to Paris on YouTube. No pressure though. When you dominate an enemy medic as Devilman, he will say,
"Dominated, and I've been shagging your wife,"
basically implying that Devilman cut the medic. In his negotiations with the devil in the comics, Medic shows the devil that he has 9 total souls. It is unknown exactly how he obtained the other 8 souls, but being that there are 8 other mercenaries besides the Medic, it seems pretty obvious. In the TF2 universe, New Zealand is entirely underwater, only being held together by a glass dome, but then Sniper's mom took off in a rocket that shattered the dome, forcing everyone to evacuate the nation. In the sixth comic, the TF Classic Scout and Soldier discuss their dream of owning an orphanage. While wholesome at first, it quickly takes a turn when the TFC Scout says that, quote, "We are going to have an endless supply of free kids too," and before getting cut off. So while it's unknown what their intentions were, it is pretty easy to assume the worst. The town of Twofort was originally named Hugginsville, but the founder was bullied by a group of teenagers into naming it Two Farts. Being too afraid to fully revert its name, Huggins changed the name of the town to Twofort. Old Nick is the TF2 portrayal of Santa Claus, who is an evil being who kidnaps children on the naughty list and forces them to work in factories. He is later severely injured by the soldier and then killed by one of his slaves under the orders of the spy. The engineer and his grandfather, Radigan Conager, are both seen working for the administrator in the comics. Radigan Conager is a man responsible for constructing the life-extending machines that keep characters like the administrator and Grey Man alive, while the engineer is seen as the person who maintains the administrator's machine all the way up until her death. The story of Poopy Joe is a parody on the real-life Cold War, where the Americans and Soviets competed to have their monkey astronauts as the first to reach space. However, unlike real life, the Americans resoundingly lost, with Poopy Joe's rocket crashing shortly after liftoff. It later turned out that Manco sabotaged the rocket in order to get more Australium. In the Doommates comic, it came out that Soldier turned Erasmus's castle into a raccoon sanctuary while he was gone, and for whatever reason, Soldier feeds them rancid sour cream. It is most well known that Medic isn't a doctor, as in the Meet the Medic short, he told the Heavy that he lost his medical license after stealing a man's entire skeleton. This means that the engineer with his 11 PhDs and Heavy with his PhD in Russian literature are both more of a doctor than Medic himself is one. However, it should be noted that Heavy having a PhD is technically not canon, as it was revealed to the community via the Poker Night games and not Valve themselves, so take it as you will. In the description of the track Terrorizer cosmetic for Scout, it is revealed that he joined the high school track team in order to pick up girls when he was 23 years old. Before the final comic was released, it was a hot debate on whether or not Elizabeth and Helen were two different people. Many believe that Helen was a current-day administrator, while Elizabeth was her mother. However, in the final comic, these theories were put to rest when it was revealed that they are the same person, both being names the administrator used during her life. After being confronted by city officials for the state of his residence, Merasmus promised to destroy the Soldiers' Raccoon Sanctuary, but he was informed he would have to take it up with the park ranger, and surprise surprise, the park ranger was Soldier the whole time. In the description of the Balloonicorn cosmetic, it is stated that the Balloonicorn is on a hair trigger and is usually pretty drunk. In the 2015 Gunmetal update, a coin that leveled up from gravel to Australian based off of your contract progression was given to players who purchased the campaign pass. Once the coin reaches max level, it shows a picture of a kangaroo. The description of the coin reads, Queen Trixie, 1947 to 1967, meaning that Australia was ruled by a kangaroo for the span of about 20 years in the TF2 universe. In an official advert for the Valve Steam Link, the spy could be seen playing games while naked in the bathtub, with his balaclava on of course. This was done to show the versatility of the Steam Link device. In the promotional material of the 2009 Classless update, as well as the description text of the towering pillar of hats, it is implied that those who are poor can't afford such symbols of wealth like a hat, with an emphasis put on hatless individuals being poor and Irish. Popular streamer Germa, whose origins are within the Team Fortress 2 community, actually influenced the naming of the Scout. In an interview done by Tyler McVicker said that Scout's voice actor Nathan Betterline, as well as other writers at Valve, named the Scout Jeremy because they were watching Germa's videos at the time. For whatever ungodly reason, members of the community discovered that Saxon Hale was an anagram for... yeah, you can read it out for yourself. Valve even played along with the joke, with the Manconomy update that was written by Saxon Hale reading, quote, "The perverts of anagramyourname.com should be ashamed of themselves, and I've seen to it that they won't be bothering anyone in the future." In page 6 of the Blood Money comic, Merasmus confirms that he is a virgin. I guess the reason for this entry is because Merasmus himself is confirmed to be over 6,000 years old. In the Demoman's biography, it is confirmed that at 6 years old, he killed his adoptive parents in a botched attempt to kill the Loch Ness Monster. In the 2014 Ketchup comic, the original Pyro, being the one part of the team before the Team Classic Mercs, looks a lot like Abraham Lincoln. Over the span of the comics, many characters die and are seemingly brought back to life. Redmond, Blutarch, Greyman, Zephaniah Man, and the Administrator all preserve themselves via life-extending machines powered by Australium. In the 6th comic, Scout dies, goes to heaven, and is sent back to Earth by God himself once it is confirmed that he hasn't fulfilled his promise of being God's gift to woman. Also at the start of the 6th comic, Medic mentions that at one point, he had to revive Soldier, Pauling, Zana, Pyro, and the Spy. The Medic himself, of course, died and went to hell before swindling the devil into granting him a second chance. And finally, the Sniper was revived by the Medic after being shot by the Team Fortress Classic Heavy. Shakespearecles is a sort of joke character in the TF2 universe first mentioned in the concluding parts of the War update. On the page, it says he was the strongest rider who ever lived, able to bench 700 British pounds. Additionally, he was also the inventor of stage play and the rocket launcher. For a brief moment when unboxing the newer model Manco crates, a stamp with Queen Trixie's face on it can be seen on the animation of the crate opening. According to the official blog made about the debut of the Gaming Head Sniper action figure, Saxon Hale owns the rights to Sniper's likeness until the year 7039. The official poster about the Force of Nature says that it was made in Portugal. However, the text below that stamp reads Buena Garantía, which is essentially the equivalent of money back guarantee in Spanish. This is supposed to be a joke about how poorly made the Force of Nature is, the fact that it's made in Portugal, but the poster couldn't even bother putting the guarantee in Portuguese. In order to announce that the winners of the Saxy Awards would now be picked by the audience, Valve created a joke character known as Francis the Talking France. The random character said that they were hired to judge the Saxies, but then decided to pass that task onto the audience as it was too big of a job for them. As if Soldier didn't already take up enough bizarre professions, he is also legally a priest in the US territory of Guam. In the TF2 universe, Saxon Hale won the rights to the Alamo. For those unaware, the Alamo is a monument in San Antonio, Texas that has been the scene of some controversy regarding racism. So in the TF2 universe, Saxon Hale produced comics depicting him and the ancient fighter Hercules destroying the Alamo. In the postcards released alongside the 2015 Tough Break update, one of them shows an image of a place called Granny's World Headquarters, a factory that seemingly manufactures all of the blue team's payload bombs seen in game. On the update page for the 2010 Manconomy update, it is confirmed that Saxon Hale owns the entirety of England, so good on Saxon Hale for getting rid of England. The rest of the UK will thank him dearly. Both the TFC and TF2 engineers were tasked with managing the life-extending machines of Plutarch during their lives, so combine this with the fact that we know the machine's inventor was engineer's grandfather, and it is likely that the TFC and TF2 engineers are related. This is a joke entry referring to the fact that the vein on Saxon Hale's bicep in the Maelstrom comic cover looks like the number 3. As absurd as this sounds, there is weirdly a bit of circumstantial evidence to support this. For those unaware, the Bite of 87 is one of the main plot points of the Five Nights at Freddy's series, an event where a kid named Jeremy is killed by one of the animatronics after being bitten, and in the 6th TF2 comic, God sends the scout back to Earth, telling him he will see him on December 4th, 1987. Recall that the scout's name is Jeremy, and you see where this is going. The description of the Bonk leadwear hat states that the Bonk atomic punch was invented in 1932 by combining sugar with a mixture of zinc, ammonium chloride, and molten salt. So yeah, Scout is pretty much chugging battery acid. This is a phrase that appears on the seal of the official bloody newspaper of Australia. When put into Google Translate, it reads, "Here's some bloody news, mate." In one of Miss Pauling's voice lines added from the Tough Break update, she says this.
Hey, Pauling here. I got invited to something called a key party. I guess we all trade houses or something. Anyway, they wanted my keys and I said no.
So it is likely she went to a swinger party of some sort. 555-1103 is the scout's phone number as confirmed by this WizardCon newspaper. In one of the clippings of the Two Fort newspaper, an advert for a man named Terry selling catapults is seen. This actually has some significance to the real game, as the catapult was a scrapped engineer building meant for a past update. Prior to the release of the final comic, the most anyone knew about Miss Pauling's name was that it started with an F, since she was referred to as F. Pauling, but now with the release of the last comic, we know that her name is Flo Pauling. Sinclair is revealed to be the name of the Gentleman of Leisure in this newspaper clipping. In a non-canon comic made for the 2012 Robotic Boogaloo update, a Pomeranian dog named Kisses Von Butternups is revealed to be the President of the United States from the future year of 1999. In the item description for the Bearded Bombardier cosmetic, it is revealed that both Demoman and Santa Claus share a deep hatred of American singer Judy Garland. The Mustachium Bar is a promotional crafting ingredient that was used to craft the fish cake and Space Chem pin items. Its item description states that it's harvested from the Australian outback, so it very likely shares its properties with Australium. In Meet the Heavy, for whatever reason the YouTube subtitles of the video read, quote, "Paul touched my gun," instead of "Who touched my gun?" Enough said, move on. This Iceberg was created prior to the release of the 7th comic, which took over 7.5 years to release after the 6th one. Dr. Sex is a shitpost meme referring to this YouTube video. Some people have pointed out that the description text of the Bited Beak mentions it having a built-in sex detection radar, meaning that Dr. Sex is indeed canon. Final Combat is perhaps the most infamous TF2 ripoff ever made, with some community members joking that it is canon to TF2. This refers to when back in the day, if you searched up Saxon Hale on Google Images, the 6th image would always be a horrifically detailed NSFW drawing of Saxon Hale. While it is no longer the case, just take the chart creator's advice and don't look into this. In the conclusion of the 7th comic, the scout speaks to the viewers, saying, "It's good to know you stuck around for everything. We couldn't have done any of this without you." Many in the community debate whether or not this line was a farewell from the writers. Some individuals say it's Valve's way of finally giving closure to the fanbase, while others cite that the comic writers have little to do with the actual development of the game, so it's unlikely that it really means anything significant. While usually the de facto joke entry at the bottom of most icebergs, this one actually bears some credence to the TF2 universe, such as when Sniper dies, his version of heaven is a room with his parents. When Scout dies, it's a sanitized world catered to his ego. When Pauling dies, she ends up in the administrator's office. When Medic dies, he goes to hell and has a one-on-one with the devil to ultimately outsmart him. So in a weird way, every afterlife event in the TF2 universe is personalized to the likings of the mercs. It is unknown why the administrator made it her life's mission to torture Zephaniah Man as long as she possibly could, but many have pointed to the cover of the comic being a lead indicator. The 3 different covers all depict a young administrator kneeling and crying at the sight of her parents' death. This has led some to speculate that Zephaniah Man had some kind of responsibility in their death. Further supporting this theory is that the administrator herself admits at one point she can't even remember why she has a grudge against Zephaniah. So combine the fact that there are 3 different covers all depicting the same event in a slightly different way, and the administrator's lack of recollection for her grudge, and this is likely the reason she took it to tormenting Zephaniah. And that is it for this iceberg. Thank you so much to anyone who stuck around to the end. If you enjoyed this video, then like, subscribe, follow my socials, and check out the videos on your screen now.